The Daedric Princes are some of the most mysterious, terrifying, and fascinating beings in all of Elder Scrolls lore. They exist outside the bounds of time and mortality, each ruling over a realm of oblivion shaped by their own twisted vision of reality. Some crave destruction, some thrive on deception, and some are so alien that even the gods of Nirn fear what they represent. Across every game, from Arena to Skyrim, these princes have left their mark, subtly guiding events or shattering the world outright. But which of them holds the greatest power? Is it the one who nearly destroyed Tamriel in fire and blood? The one who commands fate itself? Or maybe the one cursed by the other Daedra for being too powerful? In this video, we're going to go through the entire lore of every Daedric Prince, one by one, diving into their personalities, their realms, their followers, and their impact on the world. To make sense of the chaos, we'll group them into 4 factions. First, the Princes of Power and Destruction, those who seek to dominate through strength and fear. Then, the Manipulators and Tricksters, who use whispers, illusions, and temptations to shape the world from the shadows. After that, the Cosmic and Abstract, those who represent fate, knowledge, and forces beyond mortal comprehension. And finally, the Outliers, the strange and often overlooked princes who still hold immense power in their own strange ways. And once we've gone through them all, we'll look at them from every angle: power, influence, threat, knowledge, and finally decide who is the most powerful Daedric Prince of them all. Sit back, relax, and let's find out together. Part 1. The Princes of Power and Destruction. Let's talk about Molag Bal. Molag Bal, the Daedric Prince of Domination, Enslavement, and the Harvest of Souls, is one of the most feared and malevolent beings in the entire Elder Scrolls universe. He's not about chaos like Sheogorath or personal pleasure like Sanguine. No, Molag Bal is about control. Pure, absolute control. He doesn't want your worship, he wants your submission. He wants your soul bent to his will, your body broken and reshaped in his image, and your world twisted into a dark reflection of his own dominion. His realm, Cold Harbor, is like a nightmarish parody of Nirn, bleak, frozen, and ruled by his iron grip. It's said that he modeled it after Tamriel as a mockery, a way to prove that what the mortals hold dear can be taken, defiled, and corrupted. The skies of Cold Harbor are forever shrouded in dark, swirling clouds, its ground cracked and lifeless, and its rivers flowing with the tears and blood of the enslaved. And yet, despite the cruelty and horror, there's a method to Molag Bal's madness. He isn't random. His actions are deliberate, his conquests carefully planned. This is the prince who gave birth to the first vampire through an act so vile it echoes through mortal history. Lamai Bal, once a priestess of Arkai, was cursed by Molag Bal and became the progenitor of all vampire bloodlines. Through her, Molag Bal's influence seeped into countless cultures across Tamriel, turning noble warriors, lost souls, and ambitious necromancers into his children of the night. And unlike many Daedric artifacts that are singular relics passed down in myth, Molag Bal's reach is tangible, seen in every vampire clan, every blood-soaked altar, and every soul trapped in his cold grasp. His weapon, the Mace of Molag Bal, isn't just a tool of destruction, it's an instrument of suffering. It tears the soul from the body and enslaves it, feeding Molag Bal's endless hunger for dominance. It's not elegant, it's not subtle, but it is effective. When it strikes, it leaves more than just wounds. It leaves despair, corruption, and a mark that cannot be healed. Throughout Elder Scrolls Online, we see what Molag Bal looks like when he's unleashed. His plane meld, a grand invasion of Nirn itself, was a scheme to merge Cold Harbor with Tamriel. Not just to conquer it, but to overwrite reality. Imagine a world where no one can die without being sent to his realm. A world where even the afterlife is owned by Molag Bal. That's what he was trying to create. And the terrifying part is, he almost succeeded. His forces were massive, his reach extended across factions and borders, and only the combined efforts of countless heroes and gods prevented his victory. And still, he wasn't destroyed. Molag Bal cannot be slain. He can be banished, delayed, weakened, but he always comes back. That's part of what makes him so dangerous. He plays the long game. His influence isn't just in armies and artifacts, but in ideology. In the idea that might makes right, that to dominate is divine, and that freedom is an illusion for the weak. Those who worship Molag Bal often don't see themselves as evil. They see themselves as strong, as chosen, as survivors in a world where only the powerful matter. And that's the real horror of Molag Bal. He offers power, and many are willing to take it, no matter the cost. His name is feared in every culture, his shrines hidden in shadows, his cults operating in the dark corners of society. But he's always there, watching, waiting, planning. Compared to the other princes, Molag Bal may not be the most subtle or the most mysterious, but he might be the most relentless. Where others scheme or seduce, he conquers. Where others test, he breaks. His nature is simple, but in that simplicity lies an overwhelming force. You know what you're getting with Molag Bal, and that's what makes him terrifying. There's no deception, no layers to unravel. Just domination, suffering, and the cold certainty that if he had his way, Tamriel would become another cold harbor, a realm of ash, steel, and chains. In the end, Molag Bal represents a kind of evil that doesn't hide. It marches at your gates, dragging the souls of your ancestors behind it, and dares you to resist. And even when you do, he smiles. Because to him, resistance is just the first step towards submission. Another one on our list is Mehrunes Dagon, the Daedric Prince of destruction, change, revolution, energy, and ambition. One of the most immediately recognizable and infamous figures in Elder Scrolls lore, and that's for good reason. Where other Daedric princes might act through subtle manipulation, trickery, or slow corruption, this guy shows up with fire, chaos, and a plan to burn everything to the ground. His sphere is the tearing down of the old to make way for something new. But unlike princes like Boethia who are about challenge and ascension, Dagon represents total obliteration. He's the god of cataclysms, natural disasters, and political upheaval, the idea that destruction is a kind of rebirth, and sometimes the only way forward is to reduce everything to ash. His history with Tamriel goes far beyond just the Oblivion Crisis, although that is definitely his most iconic appearance. Even in earlier ages, he was associated with calamity. According to the 36 Lessons of Vivec, he played a major role in the destruction of the western Cyrodiilic coastline during the early history of the Chimer and Dwemer, and in other accounts, he was the force behind various earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and the sundering of entire cities. He doesn't just send a few minions through portals, he changes the landscape, both physically and politically. The most well-known event tied to him is of course the Oblivion Crisis. At the end of the Third Era, the Mythic Dawn cult, led by Munkar Camoran, enacted a long-term plan to allow him to fully manifest in Tamriel. Using the Amulet of Kings and the assassination of the Emperor and his heirs, they unraveled the barriers between Nirn and Oblivion, and for a time, Dagon's legions of Daedra poured into the mortal world through gates of fire. This wasn't a small incursion, it was a global event. Every province of Tamriel was affected, cities were destroyed, and the empire was nearly lost. And at the climax, Dagon himself stepped through, into the mortal plane, a colossal, four-armed behemoth of fire and rage. No subtlety, no illusions, just a god of destruction, walking the streets of the imperial city, ready to crush it all. The only thing that stopped him was the sacrifice of Martin Septim and the activation of the Chimel Adabal, which transformed Martin into the avatar of Akatosh and banished Dagon back to oblivion. But even in defeat, Dagon left a permanent mark. That entire crisis changed the course of Tamriel's history. The Septim dynasty ended, the empire never fully recovered. Magic and political power were reshaped. That's the thing about Mehrunes Dagon. He doesn't just want to destroy for fun. He sees destruction as a way to create opportunity. For him, it's a cosmic principle. Break the old to make way for the new. Tear down the corrupt, even if it means everything burns. And while that might sound idealistic in some twisted way, in practice, it means endless suffering. Cities lost, families torn apart, realms scarred forever. And his worshippers, like the mythic Dawn, truly believe in that mission. They don't think they're evil. They think they're freeing the world from stagnation. That's what makes him dangerous. You've got people who are willing to die for this belief that chaos is salvation. His artifact, the Matern's Razor, is just as lethal and direct as he is. It's a dagger with the chance to instantly kill its target. One cut, one blink, and death follows. It's symbolic of his whole philosophy. No drawn-out battles, no negotiations, just decisive, sudden ends. When it comes to influence over the physical world, he is unmatched among the other Daedra. He doesn't just change people's minds, he tears open the sky, topples mountains, and leaves nothing standing. If Molag Bal is domination and control, Dagon is the fire that melts the chains and the steel alike. He is the storm that cannot be reasoned with. And while he has been defeated more than once, you never really kill a Daedric Prince. You just slow them down. He always comes back. He always finds new cults, new plans, new cracks in the walls between Oblivion and Nirn. Because destruction is part of the world. It's inevitable. He doesn't have to wait long. He knows that eventually something will fall. And when it does, he'll be there, waiting to finish the job. We also need to talk about Malakath. Malakath is one of the most misunderstood and unique figures in all of Elder Scrolls lore. A Daedric Prince who stands apart from the others not because of how much power he commands, but because of who he represents and the way that power is expressed. Known as the God of Curses, the Lord of Ash and Bone, and the Patron of the Spurned, Malakath isn't worshipped by the proud or the powerful. He's the God of the outcast, the broken, and those who have been wronged or cast aside by society. His origins are as dramatic and defining as any tale in Tamriel's mythology. Long ago, Trinimac was a god worshipped by the elves, a noble and powerful champion of order and valor. But during a confrontation with Boethia, one of the princes of deceit and ambition, Trinimac was tricked, humiliated, and either devoured or transformed, depending on the version of the legend you follow. What emerged from that fall wasn't the radiant figure the elves once revered, but something entirely different. Malakath, a grim and vengeful entity formed in pain and dishonor. From that moment on, his followers, particularly the Orsimer, or Orcs, were also transformed, becoming a people perpetually caught between cultures, respected for their strength but constantly treated as outsiders. And that's what makes Malakath so compelling. He's not about grand cosmic balance or existential terror, like some of the other princes. He's not a trickster playing games or a destroyer seeking glory. Malakath is the voice of bitterness, of perseverance, of enduring pain and using it as fuel. His commandments aren't about domination or subjugation, but about honor, vengeance, and loyalty among the rejected. He teaches that those who have nothing else must cling to their oaths and their strength, because that's all the world will allow them to keep. Malakath's worshippers, especially the Orcs, hold these values close. The strong protect the weak, but betrayal is punished brutally. To break an oath is the worst sin. And unlike princes who manipulate from afar, Malakath is often portrayed as being direct and honest, cruel maybe, but fair in a way the others rarely are. His realm, the Ash Pit, is a reflection of that harsh fairness. It's a land of smoke and fire, not a place of torment for the sake of it, but a forge, a crucible that tests those who enter. Only the worthy survive, and the worthy earn Malakath's respect. Among the many Daedric artifacts in the Elder Scrolls universe, few are as iconic and devastating as Volendrung, Malakath's warhammer. This massive weapon has a long and chaotic history, and despite being associated with Malakath, it doesn't always stay in one place, or even in one belief system. Sometimes it shows up in the hands of giants, sometimes in the grip of conquerors, but its sheer power is undeniable. In the games, It often comes with the ability to paralyze and drain stamina, reflecting Malakath's relentless and exhausting kind of combat. There's no elegance or flash in Volendrung. It's raw, heavy, and built for crushing enemies. That fits Malakath perfectly. The prince's presence in Tamrielic history shows up mostly through the orcs, who revere him not only as a god, but as a father figure. When orc strongholds are formed, they build them around a code of Malakath, a set of rules that emphasize strength, duty, and revenge. Chiefs must earn their place in combat, wives are respected warriors, and disputes are settled with fists rather than politics. It's a hard life, but one that gives the orcs pride and purpose. Despite all of this, Malakath is still considered a Daedra, and like the rest of the princes, his goals are not always aligned with mortal needs. Sometimes he helps those who are wronged, granting them the means to get vengeance. Other times he tests his followers harshly, punishing failure or weakness without pity. But unlike the cold manipulations of princes like Molagbal or the destructive chaos of Merun's Dagon, Malakath's cruelty often comes from a place of grim justice. You fail not because he hates you, but because you didn't live up to the strength he demands. There's something deeply human in Malakath's story and in the way he interacts with the world. He embodies the reality that life is often unfair, that good people are cast aside, and that honor doesn't always mean glory. But instead of promising salvation or comfort, Malakath offers strength. He tells the cast out to rise, to endure, and to fight for their place. That message resonates with anyone who's ever been on the outside looking in. And in a world like Tamriel, where politics, magic, and divine power constantly shift the balance, there's something quietly powerful about a god who simply tells you to stand tall, keep your word, and crush your enemies when they come for you. Malakath may not be the most glamorous or the most feared of the Daedric princes, but in his own brutal, unwavering way, he is one of the most respected. Another one on our list is Boethia. Boethia is one of the most fascinating and dangerous of the Daedric princes, known as the Prince of Plots, the Deceiver of Nations, and the Lord of Murder, Conspiracy, and Secret Ambition. What sets Boethia apart from the others is that this prince doesn't just thrive on chaos or raw destruction. Boethia is about competition, conflict, and the will to rise through betrayal and cunning. Boethia's domain is power, but not the kind handed down by birthright or title. It's power earned through battle, deception, and challenge. Every action tied to Boethia is about pushing people beyond their limits, testing strength, exposing weakness, and rewarding those who come out on top. If you fall, you were never worthy. If you win, even by treachery or brutality, that's proof of your worth. Boethia doesn't care about fairness, only results. This philosophy makes Boethia incredibly popular among those who see the world as a place where only the strong deserve to rule. One of the most well-known stories about Boethia involves the Trinimac myth. Trinimac was an Aedra, a powerful divine figure worshipped by the early elves, particularly the Aldmer. But according to Chimer legends, Boethia tricked and defeated Trinimac, devouring him or transforming him into the Daedric Prince Malakath, depending on which version you read. This act didn't just take down a god, it changed history. The event led to the rise of the Chimer people and the decline of the worship of Trinimac. It was one of the most significant shifts in religious and political power in Tamrielic history, and Boethia was at the heart of it. And this kind of subversive victory is exactly what Boethia thrives on. Boethia's influence isn't limited to ancient myths either. In Morrowind, Boethia is one of the 3 good Daedra worshipped by the Chimer and respected by the Dunmer. In fact, Boethia was seen as a symbol of strength and self-empowerment, encouraging followers to defy corrupt authority and always challenge themselves. In contrast to Daedric princes who just want to dominate or destroy, Boethia wants mortals to grow stronger by fighting each other, betraying the weak, and earning their place in the hierarchy through blood and cleverness. It's a brutal path, but one that doesn't pretend to be anything else. The arena of Boethia's influence is just as much the battlefield as it is the throne room. In Skyrim, the Dragonborn can encounter Boethia through the Boethia's Calling quest, which perfectly encapsulates what this prince is all about. You're told to bring a follower to Boethia's shrine and murder them as a sacrifice. From there, he possesses one of the cultists and begins to judge the worthiness of the participants through battle, demanding the strongest prove themselves. It's not about devotion, piety, or prayer. It's about demonstration of power, plain and simple. Boethia rewards the ruthless, the ambitious, and the strong. The artifact associated with Boethia is the Ebony Mail, a suit of armor that doesn't just offer excellent protection, it corrupts those around it. It deals poison damage to nearby enemies, giving the wearer an edge in battle that is constant and passive. It's not flashy or overwhelming like some Daedric weapons, but it's deadly in an understated way, perfectly aligned with Boethia's themes of stealth, manipulation, and efficiency in destruction. What's also interesting is how Boethia's gender presentation shifts throughout the games. Sometimes referred to as male, sometimes as female, Boethia doesn't seem to care. The prince adopts whatever form fits the situation, and this fluid identity only reinforces the idea that he, or she actually, is all about adaptability and strategy. You become what you need to be to win. Boethia's influence extends into political philosophy too. In many ways, Boethia represents the ultimate rejection of stagnation and blind obedience. The prince encourages rebellion, especially against tyrants and those who grow soft with power. If a ruler becomes complacent, Boethia would have their most trusted ally rise up and overthrow them. It's not cruelty, it's renewal through conflict. When someone falls to Boethia's schemes, it's because they weren't worthy to begin with, and those who survive are stronger for it. That's the core of Boethia's teachings. The world is not fair, and it never was. You either claw your way to the top or die trying. Followers of Boethia embrace this worldview, often becoming the most dangerous kind of people, not just physically powerful, but cunning, ruthless, and unshakably confident. In Tamriel, where power shifts with every war and every broken alliance, Boethia's influence is always just beneath the surface. And while many fear the prince's methods, there's no denying the respect Boethia commands, because when all the dust settles, Boethia's followers are often the ones still standing. Part 2. The Manipulators and Tricksters. The first up is Sheogorath, the Daedric Prince of Madness. While most of the princes rule with a clear and often terrifying purpose, destruction, domination, deceit, or ambition, Sheogorath rules unpredictability itself. He is chaos personified, an entity who can seem comical one moment and terrifying the next, whose every word is laced with either brilliant insight or utter nonsense, and often both at the same time. His domain is madness, but not simply in the way people often think of it. He doesn't just represent the broken mind. He is the embodiment of all things, irrational, contradictory, and beautifully insane. But don't mistake that for weakness. Sheogorath is not a joke, and his madness is not merely confusion or incoherence. He is terrifyingly powerful, capable of warping reality to reflect his whims, which often defy any kind of logic. His realm, the Shivering Isles, is a perfect reflection of this. It is split into two halves, mania and dementia, each representing a different side of madness. Mania is vibrant and colorful, filled with artistic excess, passion, and joy pushed to the brink of mania. Dementia is bleak, oppressive, and riddled with paranoia and sorrow. The inhabitants of his realm reflect these traits, as do the environments, which change and evolve seemingly at random, governed by no consistent rules except Sheogorath's ever-shifting desires. The Shivering Isles expansion in Oblivion brought players face to face with Sheogorath in a way no game had before. He wasn't just a distant voice or abstract influence. He was a living, breathing character with a Scottish accent, an appetite for cheese, and an unpredictable mood. One moment he would offer you a reward for completing a task. The next he'd threaten to turn you into a sweet roll for saying the wrong thing. But behind his eccentric demeanor was the unsettling truth that he was in complete control of his realm and everyone in it, and his power was not a joke. In fact, one of the most significant revelations about Sheogorath is that he was not always this way. According to the lore, Sheogorath is actually the result of another Daedric Prince's transformation. Jiggalag, the Prince of Order, was cursed by the other princes for being too powerful and too predictable. To punish him, they transformed him into the Prince of Madness, Sheogorath, trapping the Prince of Order in a cycle of chaos. Once every era, Jiggalag would regain his form and wage a campaign of order upon the Shivering Isles, only to be defeated and turned back into Sheogorath. This cycle only ended when the hero of Kvatch, the player character in Oblivion, stepped in and defeated Jiggalag, taking on the mantle of Sheogorath themselves. This story adds another layer to Sheogorath's character. He is not simply a lunatic with a Daedric title. He is the chaotic prison of order itself, a being who knows deep down what structure and logic are, and is forever separated from them. This duality may be what gives him such frightening insight. He often speaks in riddles, tells jokes that don't make sense, or gives commands that seem suicidal or absurd. But hidden in the madness is often a deeper truth. In some stories, his actions, while bizarre, lead to unexpectedly positive outcomes, or they reveal flaws in systems that people thought were perfect. He destroys, but often what he destroys is rigidity, complacency, or false certainty. His madness is not random. It's a mirror held up to the world, reflecting its absurdity back at it. When it comes to artifacts, Sheogorath's tools are just as strange and powerful as he is. The Wabbajack, for example, is a staff that randomly transforms targets into a wide variety of things, sometimes beneficial, sometimes lethal, sometimes hilarious. It's pure chaos in weapon form. One moment you turn a bandit into a mudcrab, the next into a Daedroth. There's also the Fork of Horripilation and the Staff of Sheogorath itself, both bizarre in appearance and function, but with deep connections to his realm and his lore. Despite all of this, there are mortals who revere Sheogorath, not just fear him. Artists, poets, philosophers, and madmen across Tamriel have drawn inspiration from him, seeing in his madness a kind of freedom. Where other princes bind their followers in strict codes or cruel deals, Sheogorath often simply sets them loose, encouraging them to explore their own insanity and embrace it. To some, that's horrifying. To others, it's liberating. And that's the essence of Sheogorath's role in the universe. He is the unpredictable storm that challenges the static sky, the strange laughter in the silence, the brilliant idea that borders on dangerous. He doesn't want to destroy the world, but he might tear it apart just to see what it looks like when it goes back together differently. In a universe so often defined by gods and forces with singular, rigid purposes, Sheogorath stands alone as a being whose purpose is to have none, and in doing so, he becomes one of the most dangerous Daedric princes of them all. There is also Vaermina. Vaermina, the Daedric Prince of Dreams and Nightmares, is one of the most enigmatic and quietly terrifying figures in the Elder Scrolls universe. Unlike the more overt Daedra who command armies, destroy cities, or manipulate entire nations, Vaermina works from the shadows of the subconscious, slipping into the minds of mortals when they are most vulnerable. She doesn't need brute force or grand invasions. Her realm is the space between sleep and waking, and her power lies in the manipulation of thought, fear, and memory. Vaermina is often described as the weaver of the panoply and the lady of dreams. Her influence can be gentle or horrifying, beautiful or grotesque, and her nature is deeply tied to the mysteries of the mind. She has dominion over both dreams and nightmares, which means that the soothing dream of a lost loved one or the most twisted and haunting vision of death and madness could both be her doing. That duality is important because it shows how unpredictable and all-encompassing her influence really is. She doesn't just create nightmares for their own sake, she also embodies the total experience of the dream realm, from the euphoric to the traumatic. Her realm in Oblivion is known as Quagmire, and it's just as unsettling as you'd expect. Descriptions of Quagmire say that it constantly shifts and changes, with the entire landscape transforming around its inhabitants every few minutes. One moment you might be walking through a peaceful meadow, and the next you're plunged into a burning ruin or a void of total darkness. It mirrors the chaotic and unpredictable nature of dreams themselves, always changing, never reliable, and often deeply symbolic. Mortals trapped in Quagmire are said to experience an endless cycle of dreams and nightmares, unable to wake or even realize they are dreaming. This makes Varmina's realm not just a prison, but a torment crafted from the very fabric of the soul's perception. One of the most infamous examples of Varmina's power in the games comes from Skyrim, in the quest Waking Nightmare. In it, the town of Dawnstar is plagued by sleepless nights and horrific visions. The townsfolk are worn down, their minds fraying under the constant strain of fear and exhaustion. It turns out that this is the result of the Skull of Corruption, a powerful Daedric artifact linked to Vermina, which amplifies nightmares and twists them into weapons. The artifact itself allows the wielder to corrupt others' dreams and turn them against them. Its history is filled with betrayal and madness, perfectly suited to the prince who created it. But the influence of Vermina goes even deeper than that. According to ancient texts and in-game books, her followers often seek out a kind of enlightenment through dreams. They believe that in dreams lie the truths of the soul, and that Vermina's gift is not just terror, but revelation. Some mortals devote themselves entirely to sleep and meditation, hoping to commune with her and understand the deeper meanings behind their visions. Others fall into madness, unable to distinguish reality from illusion after too much exposure to her power. There's something especially terrifying about the idea that Vermina doesn't need to interact with the physical world to leave a lasting impact. She doesn't command armies or destroy kingdoms with a wave of her hand, but she can unmake a person from the inside out. A mind haunted by unending nightmares is a mind that cannot fight back, cannot find peace, and cannot distinguish friend from foe. Varmina understands that fear is more potent when it is personal, when it comes from within, and that makes her power uniquely effective and disturbingly intimate. There are stories of her stealing memories from mortals, replacing them with illusions, or trapping souls in dream loops that repeat over and over. These aren't grand-scale apocalyptic events, but they're deeply personal catastrophes for the individuals involved. Imagine waking up one day and realizing that your entire life might be a dream, or worse, that your most cherished memories were never real to begin with. That's the kind of horror Varmina deals in. Even the Mage's Guild and the vigilance of Stendarr keep a wary eye out for Vermina's cults, as her influence is subtle and hard to detect until it's already rooted deep in the mind. Her worshippers are often sleepwalkers, seers, or mystics drawn to her through visions and signs in their dreams. They might not even know they're serving her at first, mistaking her gifts for divine prophecy or creative inspiration. But over time, her grip tightens, and her followers become tools for spreading her influence, often without realizing what they're doing. This is the genius of Vermina's power. It's not just the dreams themselves, but the ripple effects they cause: paranoia, confusion, fear, even faith. She can twist someone's worldview without ever appearing in person, turning hope into dread and love into obsession. In the vast tapestry of Daedric Princes, Vermina is the one who whispers rather than shouts, who haunts rather than attacks, and in many ways that makes her more dangerous. While others rule realms of fire, war, or decay, she rules the unconscious mind, the one place no mortal can escape. Her power is insidious, patient, and inescapable, and those who fall under her influence often don't even realize it until it's far too late. Another one on our list is Sanguine, the Daedric Prince of debauchery, revelry, and hedonism. He might seem like a joke at first glance, a mischievous figure who lives for parties, indulgence, and wild nights. But beneath the laughter and the ale-drenched festivities lies something darker and far more insidious. Sanguine represents the loss of control, the surrender to every temptation, and the chaos that festers when discipline and restraint are cast aside. He's not about celebration and moderation, he's about excess to the point of ruin. His domain in Oblivion is known simply as the myriad realms of revelry, a shifting series of pocket dimensions, each tailored to the deepest and wildest desires of those who enter. On the surface, it's a dream come true, unlimited pleasure, no rules, no consequences. But that's where Sanguine's true power emerges. These realms are traps disguised as paradise. The longer someone stays, the more detached they become from reality, and the more lost they are to their own urges. Mortals who fall too deep into Sanguine's influence often never return. They become playthings of indulgence, permanently intoxicated by sensation, and cut off from the real world, their identities dissolving into the fantasy. In that way, Sanguine's danger is subtle. He doesn't conquer cities or incite war. He lures you in with a smile, a drink, a beautiful face, and a promise of escape. And while some Daedric princes offer pain or fear or madness, Sanguine offers comfort, which makes him even more dangerous because most people never see him as a threat until it's too late. In Skyrim, players can meet Sanguine during the infamous A Night to Remember quest, one of the most unique and entertaining in the game. After getting roped into a drinking contest with a mysterious stranger named Sam Gwaven, the Dragonborn blacks out and wakes up with no memory of what happened. What follows is a trail of chaos that the player has to unravel, cleaning up after a drunken rampage, apologizing to wrong parties, and piecing together the wild night that unfolded. Eventually, it's revealed that Sam is actually Sanguine, and the whole affair was a test of sorts, or, more accurately, a demonstration of how easily he can lead someone astray with nothing more than a drink and a little charm. It's played for humor, but the implications are deep. How little it takes for a mortal to lose their sense of self under Sanguine's influence. Throughout the lore, Sanguine is often mentioned as an instigator of mischief, a trickster who plants seeds of indulgence and watches as people unravel their own lives. He doesn't need to force anyone to do anything. They do it to themselves. He simply nudges them toward their own weaknesses. Whether it's lust, greed, gluttony, or sloth, he turns small indulgences into full-blown obsessions. He embodies the idea that chaos can come not from outside forces, but from within, from the parts of ourselves that crave release, pleasure, and escape. One of the most interesting aspects of Sanguine's nature is that he doesn't operate in isolation. His influence can be seen anywhere mortals gather to celebrate, drink, feast, or entertain themselves. He's present in every tavern, every festival, every secret rendezvous behind closed doors. His cultists don't always wear robes or chant in dark chambers. They throw parties, tempt nobles, and provide distractions during times of crisis. They work to keep people numb and disoriented, chasing pleasure instead of purpose, and in doing so, they serve a prince who thrives on entropy masked as joy. While his presence is less overtly terrifying than someone like Molag Bal or Mehrunes Dagon, Sanguine's impact can be just as destructive. A kingdom might fall, not from war or invasion, but because its leaders were too busy drinking and celebrating to see the danger creeping in. A hero might fail, not from injury or betrayal, but because they gave in to temptation one too many times. In that way, Sanguine teaches a subtle lesson, that the most dangerous prison can be the one that feels like paradise. Despite all this, there's a duality to Sanguine that keeps him from being a purely evil figure. Like many Daedric princes, he embodies a concept that exists in all people, and his existence serves as a mirror. He represents the parts of us that want to forget, to feel good, to break free from rules and responsibilities. And there's nothing inherently wrong with joy or celebration. But where Sanguine crosses the line is in how far he takes it. He doesn't care about balance, only about pushing things to the edge until joy becomes obsession and freedom becomes addiction. His greatest trick is convincing people they're in control, when in reality, they're being guided down a path of self-destruction. Sanguine's lore paints him as a being of contradiction. He's charismatic but dangerous, humorous but malevolent, inviting but poisonous. His followers rarely see themselves as cultists, They see themselves as liberated, as enlightened, as truly alive. And that's exactly what he wants. Unlike the cold cruelty of some princes or the detached logic of others, Sanguine is all about sensation. He doesn't offer doctrine or philosophy, he offers an experience, and by the time you realize it's a trap, it's already become your new reality. That's the kind of power Sanguine wields, not with violence or terror, but with seduction and excess, and that makes him one of the most quietly powerful forces in all of Oblivion. Another one is Mephala. Mephala, known as the Daedric Prince of secrets, lies, assassination, and webs, stands out among the Daedric princes as a figure cloaked in mystery and shadow. Far from the blunt force of destruction or the wild chaos of madness, Mephala operates through subtlety, manipulation, and secrecy, weaving intricate webs that shape the destinies of mortals and gods alike. Often depicted as a spider or a figure with spider-like attributes, Mephala's symbolism fits perfectly with the notion of entangling schemes that are nearly impossible to escape once caught. One of the most fascinating aspects of Mephala is her direct impact on Tamriel's history, particularly through the founding of the Morag-Tong, the legendary assassins guild in Morrowind. The Morag-Tong isn't just a group of hired killers, it's a religious order that serves Mephala's will by carrying out assassinations sanctioned by the Tribunal of Morrowind, intertwining murder with divine purpose and legal authority. This connection to assassination elevates Mephala from a mere schemer to a force that controls life and death in subtle, lawful, yet terrifying ways. Mephala's followers believe in the power of secrets, not just keeping them, but using them as weapons. In the world of Tamriel, secrets can topple kingdoms, spark wars, and break alliances. This makes Mephala a master of influence and power, without ever drawing a sword. Instead, her power is wielded through whispers, betrayals, and the skillful manipulation of truth and lies. In Morrowind and later games, Mephala's presence is felt in quests and lore that emphasize stealth, subterfuge, and moral ambiguity. Her influence is rarely overt. You don't see armies marching under her banner, but rather invisible hands guiding events from behind the scenes. This makes her dangerous in a way that's more psychological and political rather than purely physical. Another layer to Mephala's character is the gender ambiguity and duality often associated with her. She can appear male or female, sometimes both simultaneously, reflecting her role as a weaver of mysteries and a figure beyond simple human understanding. This duality enhances the eerie and unpredictable nature of her influence. Mephala's realm in Oblivion is said to be a place of shadowy webs and endless corridors where nothing is, as it seems, a fitting metaphor for the secrets and lies that define her domain. Mortals who enter her realm risk becoming trapped not just physically, but mentally and spiritually, lost in a maze of half-truths and deception. Despite her sinister reputation, Mephala's role in the balance of the universe is crucial. She represents the hidden forces that keep society in motion, the deals made in darkness, the political machinations, the betrayals that lead to new alliances. Without her, the world would be a far simpler place, but also far less dynamic and unpredictable. In this sense, Mephala embodies a kind of dark justice. She punishes those who break oaths and those who hide truths, but she also rewards cunning and loyalty to the web she weaves. Her influence can be protective or destructive, depending on how her favors are sought. The power Mephala holds over the very fabric of social and political life in Tamriel means her influence extends far beyond just the realm of murder and secrets. She is the spider at the center of the web that connects nobles, thieves, assassins, and rulers, and her reach touches everyone who operates in the shadows. While her methods might be shadowy and her followers often feared, Mephala's influence is undeniable. She is a reminder that not all power comes from brute strength or open warfare. Sometimes it's the power of secrets, lies, and carefully laid plans that shape the fate of worlds. Mephala's lore teaches that knowledge is power, but the right kind of knowledge is even more potent. The secrets you keep, the truths you distort, and the plans you hide until the moment they strike. This makes her one of the most enigmatic yet impactful, Daedric princes in the Elder Scrolls universe. Next on our list is Clavicus Vile, the infamous dealmaker of Oblivion, a Daedric prince whose power is rooted in manipulation, temptation, and the fine art of making mortals regret everything. While some princes rule with sheer force or command over elemental powers, Clavicus Vile plays a different game entirely. He's the one waiting patiently in the shadows with a smile, holding out a gilded contract to someone desperate enough or arrogant enough to sign. At first glance, he doesn't seem all that intimidating. He's polite, charming, almost jovial. But that's exactly what makes him so dangerous. Vile isn't about violence or fear. He's about making you walk into the trap on your own 2 feet, thinking it was your idea the whole time. His power lies in the twisted promise of fulfillment. Riches, revenge, eternal youth, love, whatever your heart craves most, he has a deal ready. But once you accept, you quickly realize that Clavicus Vile never gives without taking something much more valuable in return. He rules over a pocket realm of oblivion called the Fields of Regret, and the name couldn't be more appropriate. This domain is full of lush landscapes and strange beauty, a place where everything looks just a bit too perfect. That's the trick. It lures you in with comfort and hope, only to reveal its teeth once you're too deep to turn back. Some believe the entire realm is built from the regrets of mortals who struck deals with him, every hill and tree representing some dream twisted into a curse. In his realm, the illusion of paradise is just another layer of control, and presiding over it all is Clavicus Vile himself, usually in the form of a dapper, horned man with an unsettling grin. By his side is Barbas, his loyal, if long-suffering, companion. Most often appearing as a talking dog, Barbas is more than just a pet or servant. He's an extension of Vile's will, sometimes acting as a conscience, other times pushing Vile's own agendas. The two bicker like old friends, but their bond is deep and ancient. Interestingly, Barbas has even been separated from Vile in moments of conflict, only to be reunited later, highlighting the weirdly personal relationship between the two. In fact, in Skyrim, the player can witness firsthand just how layered that relationship is, especially during the quest involving the Mask of Clavicus Vile, one of the artifacts most closely tied to his persona. That mask is more than just a cosmetic item. It represents the core of his power, outward charm hiding inward corruption. It grants increased charisma and bartering abilities, but wearing it means aligning yourself, even slightly, with Vile's ideals, manipulation, ego, and self-gain. And the stories attached to the mask are as old as they are tragic. Time and again, it appears in the hands of someone who thought they could outwit the prince, only to fall victim to their own ambition. That's Vile in a nutshell. He doesn't need to chase after power. Power comes to him begging for help. Throughout Elder Scrolls lore, Clavicus Vile has been involved in countless pivotal moments. He's not the kind of prince to trigger cataclysmic wars or tear open the sky, but don't mistake that for weakness. He's had his hands in everything from royal betrayals to magical catastrophes. Entire bloodlines have been cursed or elevated because of a single whispered promise from him. He's even been said to meddle with the outcomes of Daedric rivalries, not through direct combat, but by exploiting the ambitions of others. When someone like Mehrun's Dagon uses fire and ruin to change the world, Vile changes it with a contract and a smile. And yet, there's a strange neutrality to him. He's not always outright malevolent. Sometimes, his deals actually help people, at least at first. That's part of what makes him so compelling. He's not chaos for the sake of chaos, nor is he domination like Molakbal. He exists in that murky middle, where danger doesn't come with a roar, but with a whisper. Some even theorize that Clavicus Vile might be closer to understanding mortals than most Daedra. After all, his entire game relies on understanding mortal desire better than they understand it themselves. He's a mirror, showing mortals the ugliest parts of who they are. And he always gets what he wants in the end. So when we talk about power among the Daedric princes, Vile represents a category all his own. He's not destructive or violent in the traditional sense. He doesn't need to be. He wins by letting you destroy yourself. That's his strength. He never forces, he tempts. And that makes him one of the most quietly terrifying beings in the Elder Scrolls universe. Because while some threats can be fought, bargained with, or sealed away, the threat Clavicus Vile poses is already inside you, waiting for the right moment to make a deal. Another one on our list is Namira, the Daedric Prince of Darkness and Decay, and easily one of the most disturbing and misunderstood entities in the Elder Scrolls universe. Namira rules over everything that civilization tries to cast aside: rot, filth, insects, corpses, and the physically and spiritually repulsive. Where most of the other Daedric princes represent power, ambition, or destruction in grand, sweeping gestures, Namira exists in the quiet, uncomfortable spaces between life and death, beauty and horror. She isn't chaos or evil for the sake of it. She represents the inevitable, entropy, the creeping return of all things to nothing, and she does it with a calm, almost motherly detachment. Her followers don't hide in shadows because they fear the world. They hide because the world fears them. And that's exactly what Namira offers, a kind of sanctuary for the unwanted. The sick, the deformed, the insane, the cast-offs of society, they all find refuge in her embrace. But that refuge comes at a cost. Those who devote themselves to Namira don't just accept corruption, they become it. Her followers are known for cannibalism, desecration, and celebrating physical decay as a form of enlightenment, believing that rejecting mortal vanity brings them closer to Namira's truth. In terms of realm, Namira rules the scuttling void, a plane of oblivion shrouded in complete darkness and thick with the stench of death. It's not grand like Cold Harbor, or majestic like Moonshadow. It's a realm where light doesn't reach, where the air is heavy, and where every movement is accompanied by the sound of something crawling. No one goes there by choice, and those who do often lose themselves completely. Yet to her followers, the scuttling void is sacred. It's a place where the illusions of the mortal world, beauty, cleanliness, order, are stripped away, and all that's left is truth, no matter how grotesque. And that's the thing about Namira. She doesn't lie to you. She doesn't dress up her influence in gold or promises. She shows you exactly what's beneath the surface and asks if you're brave enough to accept it. In her eyes, rot is just another stage of life. Decay is not the end. It's the purest form of existence, untouched by vanity or illusion. Namira's presence is felt subtly across Tamriel. You won't see massive cults in her name or armies marching under her banner. But her worship is always there, lurking in the corners of society, in dark caves, in hidden tombs, in the hearts of those who feel abandoned or broken. The most well-known example comes from Skyrim, where players can encounter the Namira cult beneath Markarth. That quest isn't flashy, but it leaves a deep impression. It's not about epic battles or grand treasures. It's about the slow, creeping realization that the people you thought were normal have completely given themselves over to something horrifying, and they're happy about it. The Ring of Namira, her Daedric artifact, reflects this dark power. It grants the wearer the ability to feed on corpses to gain strength, making it one of the most morally unsettling items in the game. But it also represents a hard truth. Survival isn't always clean. Sometimes, the strongest are the ones willing to do what others won't. Namira's influence even extends to the metaphysical. Some scholars believe she is the antithesis of Arche, the god of life and death. While Arche oversees the orderly passage of souls and the sanctity of the dead, Namira revels in the desecration of corpses and the breakdown of that order. Her philosophy challenges the very structure of mortal belief. Why should death be clean? Why should the dead be revered? In her worldview, these customs are just more lies we tell ourselves to cope. She tears down those lies and offers something darker, yes, but also something more honest. That's why she attracts the kinds of followers who've been failed by the system. To them, Namira is the only deity who didn't turn them away. She accepts what others fear, and in doing so, gives them a sense of power they never had. When we talk about the power levels of the Daedric Princes, Namira's strength isn't flashy or even particularly visible, but it's everywhere. Every corpse that rots, every kingdom that crumbles, every forgotten soul hiding in the corners of the world, that's her domain. She doesn't need an army, because time is her weapon. Everything eventually returns to her. In a way, she's one of the most inevitable forces in the Elder Scrolls universe. She's not just about disgust or fear. She's about the slow decay of all things, and the truth that no matter how high you rise, how glorious your city, how powerful your legacy, one day it'll all rot. And when it does, Namira will be waiting, not with malice, but with open arms. Part 3. The Abstract and Cosmic Powers. First up is Hermaeus Mora, the Daedric Prince of Knowledge and Memory, a being whose realm and influence are as vast and alien as the very concept of infinite understanding itself. Unlike the princes who thrive on emotion, chaos, or physical might, Hermaeus Mora is all about information, ancient tomes, hidden truths, secrets never meant to be spoken, and the raw threads of fate that bind the fabric of reality. His domain isn't just knowledge in the academic sense. It's the forbidden kind, the kind that can twist the mind or unravel civilizations. He is the keeper of what was, what is, and most chillingly, what might be. He doesn't just understand time, he sees across it, grasping patterns and truths that even the gods don't fully comprehend. His realm of oblivion is Apocrypha, an endless library filled with towering black books, ink-stained waters, and pages that whisper secrets to those brave or foolish enough to open them. Unlike more straightforward Daedric realms, Apocrypha is a place of overwhelming curiosity and danger. Knowledge there has weight, and uncovering a truth often means trading a part of yourself for it. The seekers and lurkers that patrol the realm aren't just monsters. They're manifestations of the hunger for forbidden truth, mutated by their inability to stop consuming the very knowledge that binds them to Mora's service. Hermaeus Mora is often depicted as a swirling mass of eyes and tendrils, which is symbolic of his nature, always watching, always reaching, always knowing. Unlike other princes who are very clear in their intentions, Mora is indirect, cryptic, and manipulative in a way that doesn't even feel malicious. It's more like he's simply working on a level that mortals can't understand. He doesn't view knowledge as good or evil, he simply sees it as inevitable. Everything worth knowing belongs to him eventually. In Skyrim, players get a first-hand experience of this through the Dragonborn DLC, where Mora plays a central role. The player comes into contact with one of his black books, which are physical artifacts of his power scattered throughout the world. Reading them drags the reader's mind into Apocrypha, where they are tested and offered power in exchange for understanding. Mora offers boons, but always with strings attached. It's not that he tricks you, he simply knows you will accept, because he's already seen it happen. Historically, Hermaeus Mora has had a quiet but persistent presence in Tamriel. He's not interested in open conflict or conquest. Instead, he works through scholars, seekers, and those obsessed with unraveling the mysteries of the world. His influence can be found in obscure cults, ancient ruins, and even in the minds of some of the greatest mages in history. For those who wish to transcend the limitations of mortal thought, Mora is the only path forward. But that path often comes at the cost of sanity, identity, or even free will. His artifact, the Ogma Infinium, is one of the most powerful and mysterious items in the series. It grants the reader profound knowledge and advancement, but it disappears after use, almost as if Mora allows only a glimpse of what he truly holds. The book is said to be written by Xerxes, the elven god of secrets, and filled with insights so profound that most mortals couldn't even begin to understand them. Yet Mora is always willing to offer that taste, knowing that once you've taken the first bite, you'll never stop seeking more. What makes Hermaeus Mora stand out among the princes is his neutrality. He isn't evil, not in the traditional sense. He doesn't delight in suffering like Molag Bal, or revel in destruction like Mehrunes Dagon. Instead, he represents a kind of cosmic indifference. To him, knowledge is the goal, and everything else is secondary. This makes him both incredibly dangerous and strangely comforting. He won't betray you emotionally, he'll simply lead you into revelations that will change you forever, and he'll do it because it was always going to happen. In terms of power, Hermaeus Mora might be the most omniscient entity in the entire mythos. While other princes wield strength or charisma, Mora operates on inevitability. If he truly does see all of time, then opposing him becomes a paradox. You can't win against someone who already knows the outcome of every decision you might make. That kind of power isn't just overwhelming, it's foundational. He exists at the crossroads of knowledge and destiny, and his role in the Elder Scrolls universe is one of quiet, creeping dominance. Not through armies or terror, but through knowing everything that ever was, is, and could be. And the worst part, he might even know how it all ends. Next one on our list is Meridia, the Daedric Prince of life, energy, and the energies of living things, a rare and fascinating outlier among her kin. While most Daedric princes revel in chaos, madness, domination, or deception, Meridia stands out with a purpose that often aligns with mortal values, especially when it comes to fighting the undead. She despises necromancy and all forms of undeath, viewing them as perversions of the natural cycle of life. This makes her one of the very few Daedra who could be described, at least from a mortal perspective, as benevolent. But that doesn't mean she's harmless or soft. Meridia is powerful, commanding, and not someone who tolerates defiance, especially when her ideals are at stake. Her realm of oblivion is the Colored Rooms, a vibrant plane filled with light and radiant energy, in stark contrast to the gloom and madness typical of other Daedric realms. The Colored Rooms are said to pulse with the energy of life itself, an ever-shifting array of color, light, and harmony that reflects Meridia's fierce rejection of decay and corruption. While the full details of her realm remain mysterious, what is clear is that her power is intimately tied to light, not just as a physical force, but as a spiritual and metaphysical one. In Tamriel, Meridia's presence is often felt when dark forces grow too strong. She intervenes not out of compassion, but because undeath offends her very being. She views liches, vampires, and necromancers as abominations, and she's quick to empower mortals willing to cleanse them from the world. Her most famous artifact is Dawnbreaker, a radiant sword forged in her name that burns with purifying fire and explodes with light upon striking the undead. In Skyrim, players are summoned by Meridia through her beacon, where she charges them with a divine mission to cleanse her temple and reclaim Dawnbreaker from the necromancer Malkorin. The experience is unforgettable. She lifts the player high above the world, speaking with thunderous authority and righteous fury. It's a clear reminder that while she may act in ways that benefit mortals, she is still a Daedric prince, and her mercy is conditional on obedience. Meridia's origins are also worth noting. She is often counted among the so-called Magna Ge, gods who helped create Mundus but fled into Aetherius when the mortal plane was formed. Some sources suggest she retained a fragment of their light, which would explain her strong connection to energy and her disdain for death. This makes her a bit of an outsider, even among the Daedra, and her motivations seem to reach beyond the typical Daedric hunger for influence or worship. She seeks to maintain a certain cosmic order, at least when it comes to the cycle of life and death, and she takes action when that order is threatened. Her followers, often paladins, healers, or those touched by her light, are known for being fiercely devoted. But worship of Meridia isn't always straightforward. Like all Daedra, she demands respect, and her anger is swift, if disrespected. She doesn't hesitate to punish or abandon those who displease her, even if they were once champions. That blend of divine light and Daedric ego makes her a uniquely complex figure in the pantheon. Across Tamriel's history, Meridia has had subtle but consistent involvement. She's whispered into the ears of monarchs, struck down armies of undead through mortal agents, and even hinted at a desire to take a more active role in shaping the world. Some fans speculate she might become more prominent in future Elder Scrolls titles, especially given her growing presence in Skyrim and other media. There's also an intriguing mystery surrounding her potential role in a larger cosmic conflict. Her clear stance against undeath and her active opposition to necromancy place her at odds with other powerful forces such as Molag Bal and Mani Marco, both of whom represent the spread of undeath and soul enslavement. This makes Meridia something of a balancing force, a Daedra who might one day become a key player in maintaining the spiritual integrity of the world. And despite her firm stance on life and death, Meridia remains a Daedra, unpredictable, powerful, and not always aligned with what mortals would call morality. Her aid comes with expectation. Her gifts must be used in service to her ideals, and she tolerates no divergence from her path. Still, among the princes, she's one of the few whose goals sometimes overlap with mortal good. Whether she's a true ally or simply a force whose values occasionally align with our own is up for debate, but there's no doubt that when Meridia shines her light, the darkness trembles. Another one on our list is Azura, the Daedric Prince of Twilight, and one of the most complex and iconic figures in the Elder Scrolls universe. She governs the moment between day and night, between light and shadow, dawn and dusk. But these aren't just pretty metaphors. They reflect her true domain: change, fate, and prophecy. Unlike some of the other Daedric princes, Azura isn't known for wanton destruction or chaos. Instead, she's a figure of deep mystery, revered and feared in equal measure for her control over turning points in time, and her role in shaping destinies. Mortals who interact with her rarely forget it, because whether it's through dreams, visions, or divine intervention, she always leaves a mark. Azura is one of the few princes with a lasting and even semi-positive legacy among mortals, especially the Dunmer. Before the rise of the Tribunal, the Chimer considered Azura, along with Boethia and Mephala, one of the good Daedra. This reverence wasn't misplaced. She played a central role in one of the most defining moments in their history, when the Tribunal betrayed their oath and used Khagranak's tools to steal divine power from the heart of Lorkhan. It was Azura who responded. She appeared before the newly anointed gods and cursed the Chimer, turning their golden skin to ash and their eyes to burning red, creating the Dunmer. To outsiders, this may look like cruel vengeance, but to many Dunmer, it was a transformation that reinforced identity, survival, and strength. The curse wasn't just a punishment. It was a severing of loyalty and the reshaping of an entire people's fate. Her influence didn't stop there. In Morrowind, Azura is the first and last Daedra you encounter. She sets the Nerevarine on their path, guiding them through dreams and prophetic visions. Her involvement in that story is direct and profound. She recognizes the danger of Dagoth-Ur, and she acts not with brute force, but through chosen champions, through fate. She is the architect behind the return of the Nerevarine and the final undoing of the Tribunal's false divinity. This alone makes her one of the most influential Daedric princes in the lore. Her artifact, Azura's Star, is a powerful and reusable soul gem, highly prized by mages and necromancers alike. But like all things Azura touches, it's not just a tool. It's a symbol of her dominion over the soul's journey and the cycles of life and death. It stands as proof of her ability to affect both the physical and metaphysical realms in deeply personal ways. Her realm of oblivion, Moonshadow, is said to be among the most breathtaking of all Daedric planes. Bathed in eternal twilight, shimmering with soft, radiant light, and filled with beauty so intense it overwhelms the senses, Moonshadow reflects Azura's dual nature. It's peaceful yet otherworldly, lovely yet unknowable. For those few mortals lucky, or unlucky, enough to witness it, the experience is impossible to forget. Yet beauty is only part of her power. What makes Azura so dangerous isn't violence or madness, but inevitability. She knows what's coming. Her prophecies almost always come true. Her influence lies in the ability to guide, manipulate, and shape the outcomes of events long before others even realize what's happening. Her demeanor is often described as serene, even compassionate, but there's a cold finality to her justice. She rewards loyalty and punishes betrayal not with cruelty, but with certainty. When Azura acts, it's already too late to change the course. She is often a teacher to those willing to listen, but she doesn't tolerate arrogance. If you ignore her warnings, you will face the consequences, not out of malice, but because that's what fate demands. Throughout Tamriel's long history, Azura has remained a constant. She's never irrelevant, never passive. Whether she's directly influencing events or quietly watching from her realm, her hand can be felt in the shifting of empires and the rise of heroes. She's not a chaotic force, nor a benevolent guardian, but something in between, a perfect reflection of the twilight she rules. Neither light nor darkness, but the transition itself. If there's one thing to take away about Azura, it's that she understands the balance of things: life and death, power and humility, loyalty and betrayal. And in a universe constantly in flux, that understanding makes her terrifyingly powerful. Another Daedric Prince is Nocturnal, the Mistress of Shadows. A Daedric Prince whose domain is as quiet and mysterious as the night she represents. She is the embodiment of darkness, secrecy, and the unseen threads of fate that guide the lives of those who operate in the margins. Thieves, spies, and seekers of hidden truths revere her not because she grants brute power, but because she governs the subtle, what remains hidden, what lies just beyond the reach of light. While other Daedric princes command through spectacle and destruction, Nocturnal's influence is quiet, whispering into the ears of those willing to embrace the dark. Her presence is often more felt than seen, like a shadow moving in the corner of your eye, always there, always just out of reach. What makes her stand out among the princes is the way her power seeps into the most unlikely places. She's not just the patron of thieves. In a literal sense, she represents the very concept of concealment and the natural right of things to be hidden. Whether it's the forgotten knowledge buried in ancient ruins, the sealed fate of a ruler, or the simple twist of luck in a stolen coin toss, Nocturnal is there, guiding the outcome without ever revealing her hand. Her realm in Oblivion, the Evergloam, mirrors this perfectly. It's a place of endless twilight, where nothing is ever truly illuminated, and secrets linger in the shadows. The Evergloam is home to shades, spirits, and guardians of hidden truths, all serving her eternal command. Mortals rarely step foot there, and those who do seldom leave unchanged. It's not a realm of torment like many others. Rather, it is a realm of veiled truths, eternal dusk, and the eerie comfort of being unseen. In Tamriel, Nocturnal's influence is perhaps most visible through the Thieves' Guild and the Nightingales, an elite group sworn to serve her directly. The Nightingales are gifted with a portion of her power, drawn from the artifact known as the Skeleton Key, a Daedric relic that is both a literal key capable of opening any lock and a symbolic representation of unlocking fate itself. Those who wield it find their luck changed, their fortunes mysteriously enhanced, though prolonged use without her blessing can invite disaster. The Skeleton Key isn't just a tool, it's a test of loyalty, a link between Nocturnal and the mortal world, and a reminder that her gifts come with a price. The events of Skyrim explore this connection in detail, revealing how Nocturnal views her mortal agents, not as disposable servants, but as extensions of her will in the physical world. Her chosen don't just steal gold or pick locks, they protect sacred balance, guarding the flow of luck and fate so it doesn't fall into chaos or stagnation. Nocturnal's relationship with fate is one of her most fascinating traits. She's not just a goddess of secrets, she also holds sway over fortune, chance, and the unpredictable twists that shape destinies. Unlike Azura, who offers prophecy and clarity, Nocturnal operates in obscurity, letting events unfold naturally, while giving just the slightest push when necessary. She doesn't speak in riddles or commands. Instead, she lets silence and uncertainty be her voice. Mortals, who feel her influence, often can't explain it. A door left, unlocked, a guard distracted, a lucky escape. These are her signs. She empowers those who trust in their instincts, who embrace the unknown, and who understand that control is often an illusion. Despite her elusive nature, she is not malevolent. Nocturnal isn't interested in domination or cruelty. Her power comes from detachment, from letting mortals find their own path in the dark. That's what draws so many to her. There's no demand for worship, no promises of glory, just the quiet assurance that those who live in the shadows are never truly alone. Her power is subtle but ever present, a constant undercurrent in the lives of those who operate outside the laws of light and order. She's a goddess for those who ask for nothing, who take only what they need, and who understand that sometimes the best way to survive is to disappear. In the end, Nocturnal remains one of the most compelling Daedric princes, not because she demands attention, but because she thrives without it. Her gifts are trust, secrecy, and the strength to walk unseen through a world that often demands visibility. She is the silence between footsteps, the dark corner in a locked room, and the fleeting luck that changes everything. Part 4. The Obscure and Mysterious Ones. First up is Peryite, known as the Taskmaster, a Daedric prince often overlooked by many, but with a chilling mastery over pestilence and natural order. While some consider him lesser compared to the more flashy or destructive princes, his influence is quietly terrifying, ruling over disease, decay, and the unseen forces that keep life and death balanced. Unlike many Daedra who crave chaos or domination, Peryite embodies a harsh kind of order, one that enforces the inevitable cycles of nature through plagues and pestilence. His role is paradoxical. He brings suffering, yes, but that suffering serves a purpose, maintaining a grim but necessary balance in the grand scheme of things. Peryite's dominion extends to the natural laws that govern the spread of disease and the collapse of life, making him a force as inevitable as death itself. His realm, in Oblivion, often described as a twisted and desolate place filled with swarms of insects and disease-ridden landscapes, perfectly reflects his domain. It is a world where decay is constant, and everything is part of an endless cycle of infection and renewal. Those who venture there face horrors that test not just their strength, but their very will to survive. His followers, often plagued priests or cultists, embrace the grotesque nature of their master, believing that pestilence is a tool of purification rather than mere destruction. Peryite's influence is often seen in the outbreaks of disease across Tamriel, where his hand can be traced in sudden, devastating epidemics that reshape communities and kingdoms alike. Yet, there's more to him than just spreading sickness. Peryite represents the cold, unfeeling force of order that ensures nothing escapes the rules of life and death. This sets him apart from other Daedric princes, who might embody chaos, ambition, or passion. He is the enforcer of the natural laws that even gods must obey, reminding mortals that decay and death are inevitable parts of existence. His iconography often includes serpents and insects, symbols of his role in the natural processes of decay and renewal. In the lore of Tamriel, Peryite's name comes up less frequently, but his presence is felt whenever pestilence strikes or when the natural order seems to assert itself through harsh means. He is both feared and respected, a grim reminder that no matter how powerful or clever one might be, disease and death are forces no one can escape. Interestingly, Peryite's relationship with other Daedric princes is marked by a mixture of disdain and necessity. While many look down on him for his so-called lesser status, none can deny the importance of his role. Even the most ambitious princes must reckon with the fact that Peryite's enforcement of order through pestilence is essential to maintaining the balance of the multiverse. This balance is something many Daedra depend on, even if grudgingly. In gameplay terms, Peryite is often associated with quests that involve curses, plagues, or mysterious illnesses. His artifacts and followers reflect his themes: dangerous, disease-related powers that can harm but also cleanse. His cultists can be fanatical, dedicated to spreading his will through subtle, creeping means rather than outright conquest. Peryite's power, therefore, is more insidious than explosive. It's the slow spread of corruption, the creeping death that can't be outrun. This makes him a unique figure in the Daedric pantheon, less about chaos and more about the unavoidable processes that keep existence in check. Despite his fearsome domain, Peryite is not necessarily malevolent in the way other princes might be. His actions serve a purpose beyond cruelty or ambition. They enforce the natural laws without bias or malice. He is the ultimate taskmaster, demanding obedience not through force of arms, but through the certainty of decay and death. His followers understand this, worshipping him not just out of fear, but out of respect for his role in the cosmic order. In many ways, Peryite reminds us that sometimes power lies not in fleshy displays or brutal conquests, but in the patient, relentless enforcement of rules that even gods cannot escape. This makes him a quietly terrifying figure, a Daedric Prince, whose presence is often underestimated, but whose impact on the world is undeniable and enduring. And the last one on our list is Jiggalag, the Prince of Order, a figure both fascinating and tragic in the Daedric pantheon. Known for embodying pure, unyielding order and structure, Jiggalag's power was so immense and absolute that it terrified even his fellow Daedric princes whose chaotic natures clashed with his rigid ideals. His domain represents the cold logic of perfection, where everything has its place and nothing escapes the bounds of strict law and control. Unlike the other princes who revel in chaos, ambition, or deception, Jiggalag's vision of the universe is one of flawless order, no randomness, no surprises, only relentless structure. However, this obsession with absolute order made him a threat to the balance of the Daedric realms themselves. To prevent him from dominating the other princes, they cursed Jiggalag to become Shogorath, the embodiment of madness and chaos. This curse forced him into a cyclical existence, trapped between his true self and the maddening persona of Sheogorath, the Prince of Madness. This duality makes Jiggalag's story unique among the Daedra. He is both the ultimate symbol of order and, through his forced transformation, the source of unpredictable chaos. The curse was meant to contain his overwhelming power, but it also made him a tragic figure, torn between two extremes, order and madness, control and chaos. In the lore of Tamriel, Jiggalag's return from the curse is a significant event, explored deeply in Oblivion's Shivering Isles expansion. There, the player becomes involved in the final unraveling of the curse, helping Jiggalag reclaim his true form and reshape his destiny. His realm, the Shivering Isles, itself reflects this dual nature, split between two contrasting halves, one ruled by madness, which was Sheogorath, and the other by order, which was Jiggalag. This division symbolizes the tension at the heart of his existence and the delicate balance between chaos and order in the universe. Jiggalag's power lies in the imposition of law, discipline, and structure. His influence is absolute and unyielding, and unlike other princes who rely on trickery or brute force, his strength comes from the inevitability of order itself. To challenge Jiggalag is to challenge the fundamental rules of existence, something few dare to do. Despite his curse, or perhaps because of it, Jiggalag remains one of the most formidable Daedric princes. His return to power threatens to upset the delicate balance between order and chaos, reminding all beings in Tamriel of the dangers inherent in unchecked authority. His legacy is a stark reminder that too much order can be just as destructive as chaos, and that balance is essential even among the most powerful forces. Jiggalag's story is both a warning and a legend, a testament to the complex nature of power in the Elder Scrolls universe, where even gods can be bound by fate, curses, and the eternal struggle between opposites. Alright, let's rank the most powerful Daedric princes from different angles to really get a sense of who stands out in what way. First up, raw magical power. When we talk about sheer force, a few names immediately come to mind. Mehrunes Dagon is a prime example. His ability to rip open portals to Oblivion and cause the Oblivion Crisis speaks volumes about his destructive capacity. He's a prince of destruction through and through, wielding devastating power that can obliterate entire cities. Then there's Hermaeus Mora, the Prince of Knowledge, whose power isn't about brute force, but about control over secrets, fate, and forbidden lore. His knowledge alone gives him immense magical influence, perhaps even more far-reaching than simple destruction. Meridia, the Prince of Life and Energy, might seem less terrifying at first glance, but her dominion over life and the rejection of the undead taps into a unique kind of power, one that purifies and commands energy in ways few others can match. So, in terms of raw magical capability, these three clearly top the list, each dominating their unique sphere of influence. Moving on to influence on mortals, some princes aren't known for physical might, but instead shape the lives of mortals profoundly. Molag Bal, the Prince of Domination, is infamous for his cruelty and the creation of vampires, beings that continue to impact Tamriel's societies and politics. His schemes extend beyond simple physical domination. He affects mortal will and souls, twisting them to his purpose. Sheogorath, the Prince of Madness, might seem chaotic and unpredictable, but his influence seeps deep into mortal minds and cultures through madness and insanity, reshaping reality itself in subtle and profound ways. Nephala, the Prince of Secrets, thrives on mortal politics, assassination, and the weaving of plots that decide the fate of kingdoms and individuals alike. Their influence is less about overwhelming power and more about subtlety and control. Next, when considering wider cosmic impact, a few princes hold sway on a scale that affects not just mortals, but the very fabric of the universe. Azura, the Prince of Twilight, plays a crucial role in shaping the destiny of entire races, notably the Dunmer, and her prophecies have long-reaching effects on Tamriel's history. Ygalag, the Prince of Order, represents a cosmic force that terrifies even other Daedra. Due to his embodiment of structure and inevitability, his existence challenges the chaotic nature of oblivion itself. Hermaeus Mora again appears here, as his dominion over fate and knowledge means he potentially sees and influences all possible futures. Their power resonates far beyond the mortal realm, touching on the very principles that govern existence. Then, for strategic and manipulative power, some princes excel at long-term schemes and mental domination. Clavicus Vile, the cunning dealmaker, thrives on trickery, granting wishes that come with hidden costs, pulling strings from the shadows. Mephala again fits here with her mastery of secrets and assassination, pulling the threads of mortal politics with precision. Boethia, the Prince of Plots, uses rebellion and ambition to shift power balances in subtle but lasting ways. Their strength is measured not in immediate force, but in how effectively they manipulate others to achieve their ends, often shaping history without direct confrontation. Finally, the fear factor among Daedra themselves shows a different kind of power. Ygalag, with his embodiment of absolute order, terrifies, because he threatens the chaotic nature that defines much of Oblivion. Hermaeus Mora inspires dread due to his all-encompassing knowledge and the unknowable secrets he holds, making even other princes wary of his insight. Molag Bal is feared for his brutal domination and the torment he inflicts, his presence a dark shadow over both mortals and Daedra alike. Considering all these angles together, who stands as the most powerful overall? It's hard to pick just one because each prince rules in a different domain. However, Hermaeus Mora consistently ranks high in raw, magical power, cosmic influence, and fear factor, making him a strong candidate for the top spot. His knowledge and control over fate give him a subtle but overwhelming advantage. Yet, for sheer destructive force, Mehrunes Dagon could claim supremacy, and for influence on mortals, Molag Bal's impact is unmatched. If we think about strategic manipulation, Clavicus Vile and Mephala prove deadly in their own right, so the title of most powerful depends on what aspect you value most. But overall, Hermaeus Mora's combination of magical dominance, far-reaching influence, and the fear he commands from both mortals and Daedra alike makes him arguably the most formidable Daedric prince in all of Tamriel's history. What a journey it's been through the realms of Oblivion, from the terrifying dominion of Molag Bal to the eerie brilliance of Hermaeus Mora, all the way to the cursed order of Ygalag. We've explored raw power, influence, cosmic reach, manipulation, and fear, and we've tried to figure out who truly stands above the rest. But now it's your turn. Do you agree with the final ranking? Who do you think is the most powerful Daedric Prince? Are you Team Mora for that all-knowing edge? Or maybe you think someone like Mephala or Boethiah deserves the crown for their intricate and long-reaching schemes. Maybe you favored the blunt force and absolute chaos of Mehrunes Dagon. Whatever your pick, let me know in the comments. These discussions are what make diving into Elder Scrolls lore so much fun. And if you've enjoyed this deep dive into the darkest corners of Tamriel's mythos, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss future explorations into everything Elder Scrolls. We've got a lot more coming: Daedric artifacts, Aedra deep dives, full timelines, you name it. Thanks for sticking around, and whether you're sneaking through the shadows of Nocturnal's influence or chasing destiny under Azura's eye, just remember one thing: never trust a Daedra unless it's fun. See you next time.